Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from TinOne Resource Inc. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in scheduling a meeting with TinOne Resources, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Chris Donaldson, Executive Chairman of TinOne Resource Inc., which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol TORCF and on the TSXV under the symbol TORC. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for tuning in. As mentioned, I'm Chris Donaldson. I'm the executive chairman of TinOne Resources. We're a relatively new company, started trading about a year ago on the TSX Venture under TORC and OTCQB under TORCF. I will be making some forward-looking statements, so if you are considering making an investment, please be sure to read this disclaimer before you do so. Okay, so TinOne Resources. It's today I hope to kind of get a few things out to you, and first is to describe our assets. It's a basket of tin projects in Tasmania, Australia. I'll talk a little bit about the tin market. It's a fairly interesting market. Certainly right now there's a lot of swings in the tin price and so forth. And then hopefully give you enough confidence of the plan that we're executing and confidence in the team that we put together to execute those plans. So a little bit about the company. We're about a $6 million market cap now. We've got about 80 million shares out. We did a raise in the summer and have a little over $2 million in the bank, which is enough for us to execute our plans for the next year. And you see our share price there, and you'll notice how it's been beat up pretty badly. And part of that is it mimics the price of tin, which I'll get to in a couple of slides here. So let's talk about the tin market. And one thing I've discovered going around to various conferences and so on is that the tin market is not very well understood. And especially in North America where there aren't any primary tin producers. But it's an interesting market. It's a very small market, but the fundamentals are excellent. And the setup right now for the tin price, I think, couldn't be a better entry point. The main use of tin is in solder. So this is actually, many people consider it the forgotten battery metal. I mean, solder is used for semiconductors and any kind of electrification, solar panels, and batteries. It's considered the glue that holds the batteries together. That demand is only set to increase. There's many studies out there showing that that use is increasing over the next decade and beyond. So in terms of the demand fundamentals, they're very, very positive. What's more interesting though is on the supply side and where tin comes from. So about 80% come from areas like Myanmar, DRC, Indonesia, China, all with various challenges, certainly political ones, and many of them with I would say production ways that are not ESG compliant. So if you believe the thesis right now that people are looking for critical supply of metals from good jurisdictions, we certainly fit into that narrative as well. But the net result here is that there's a structural deficit, and we saw that playing out over the last couple of years. And up until March, so if you look at the tin price in the top left there's basically a 2-year price appreciation. It went from under $20,000 a ton all the way up to its all-time high in March of earlier this year, of $50,000 a ton. There was a lot of excitement in the tin market. The tin equities were taking off. And then you have an absolute collapse. So over the last 8 months, you saw the tin price go from its all-time high of 50,000 a ton down to below 17,000 a ton. And, that mimics our share price here. The good news, though, in the last 5 weeks since the beginning of November, you've seen a huge rebound. It's up about 40%. So we're at over actually $24,000 a ton right now. And the reason for that is, there was just the deficit in the market. So the price was increasing. And then COVID hit, specifically in China, and their factories had an excess supply. So they're normally a net importer of tin, and suddenly they flooded the market with tin, and it just crushed the price. That is now reversed. You're seeing inventory levels way down. China is now importing again, and we're seeing the price rebound fairly dramatically. So what do we have? We've got a basket of tin projects in Tasmania, Australia. So for those who don't know, it's a state just south of the big island of Australia, if you want to call it that. It's a tin producing area. In fact, all of our projects were advancing until the 80s when the tin price fell apart. So our flagship property is the Great Pyramid project. It has a historical resource on it. Our next one is Aberfoyle. It's a past producing district, produced over 2 million ounces, 2 million tons, I should say, of tin up until the mid 80s. And then we've got an earlier stage one that we just acquired a couple of weeks ago called Rattler Range. All three properties are within an hour and a half drive. I know this, I was down there a few weeks ago. And Rattler Range is earlier stage, but highly prospective. And I'll get into those in a second. But let's start with Great Pyramid. So it is basically a hill and a very, very good place to mine. We have been drilling now for about 6 months. We have a 5,500 meter program that is just wrapping up right now. We've released results for about 3,500 of the meters, and they've been very, very good. Great Pyramid itself, if you look at the block model, and that's basically the hill there. So the historical resource was 10,000 tons of contained tin at about 0.2%. So 0.2% is a pretty good grade for what would be an open pit contemplated mine eventually. But 10,000 tons is a bit small. And so, the goal of our program is threefold. One, to prove out the historical resource. Two, to test laterally. And three, to test at depth. And I'll give you a snapshot of a couple of the results. This was the one we released, I believe, last week. And you see, if you draw your attention to the deep hole at the bottom, we're seeing excellent mineralization at depth. So that's about 150 meters down. And the gray patch that you see, that's a historical resource, and that only goes down to about 40 meters. So we're definitely hitting at depth, which is very encouraging. And our goal now is just to fill in out the middle there and see how big we can make this project. We also, a few weeks ago, released some results with a spectacular hole. We had almost 80 meters at 0.51 percent tin, so that's double the depth and 2.5 times the historical grade, and it also included a section of 23 meters at over 1% tin. So we're hitting on almost everything that we're seeing so far, and encouraged that we've got more drill results to come. As mentioned, we've got about 1,500 meters left to release. So the last hole that we're drilling, this is, we've identified an IP chargeability anomaly below the Great Pyramid. So that starts at about 200 meters. So we're doing a deep hole right now into this anomaly. It could be a hunk of pyrite, but if it does turn out to be tin bearing, this is something that would be a game changer. It's a very large anomaly, and looking forward to getting those results. It's the last drill hole that we're just finishing up this week, and then we'll wait for assays, which usually are taking about 6 or 8 weeks right now. So while all this is going on, we're also working on our other project, which is Aberfoyle. And as mentioned, it's a past producing district. It produced over 2 million tons, underground mined at about 0.9% tin. And what they were doing in the old days, I'll say, they'd wrapped up in the 80s when the tin price fell apart. They basically were chasing these high grade veins and didn't do any modern exploration on the project. So they would just kind of keep following along the veins. So we're doing an extensive soil program and mapping program right now, both to see the extent of the known veins and also identify other targets. So when we're finished up at Great Pyramid, we'll have this ready, have some drill targets, and have this ready to go as well. So our third project, as mentioned, is earlier stage, but it does have the presence of 47 individually named tin occurrences. So it's highly prospective. Again, we're doing a mapping and soil program and setting that up so that we have some targets once we're finished our program at Great Pyramid. Why do we like Tasmania? As mentioned, I was down there. It's a very good place to be working. If you put your lens on, is this something that can actually be built? Well, first of all, we're in a past producing tin district, northeast Tasmania, where we're working. If it wasn't producing tin, it is an area that was forested. So we're in an area that is actually zoned for future commercial production. And Tasmania itself has an initiative going on, try to increase business and industry in the area. Mining is still their number one driver of the economy. So we're ticking all the boxes there. And of course, we're in a tier 1 jurisdiction. There's a very large mine that a company called Metals X owns on the western side. It ships out of a deep water port up near the north, so we would be able to use that as well. They're familiar with tin. They're familiar with tin mining. So, it's a pretty simple plan with some milestones that we hope to achieve here over the next 3 to 6 months. As mentioned, we still have drill results coming out on Great Pyramid. We'll have some before Christmas and more results coming in January. And at that point, we will update our resource and get it out. And I think people will be impressed with what we end up getting to. We have a target in mind with the size we want to be. Would we like to be at 20 to 30,000 tons would be a great start. And again, we're going to continue with the mapping program on our other projects, have them ready for when we are done at Great Pyramid. A little bit about the team that we have. I've been in the business 25 years or so. Before joining the Inventa Capital Group and TinOne a couple of years ago, I worked for a company called Western Copper and Gold as their head of corporate development. They have a very large copper gold project up in Yukon, Canada. Last thing I did before I left was bring in Rio Tinto as a toehold, and it looks like they're contemplating taking over the project right now. We're backed by a group called Inventa Capital. Michael Connert, that you see, is one of the founders of Inventa Capital. There's about 14 companies in the group. The other person who's a founder is Craig Perry. Many of you may know Craig Perry. He's had tremendous success in the business, taking small companies of our size or earlier stage companies and growing them and creating substantial shareholder value. Founded NextGen, ISO Energy, he's the chairman of Skeena Resources. All those are multi-hundred million into the billions. His main project right now is probably Visa Silver, which is having tremendous success as well. So the opportunity is fairly straightforward in the short term. You see our Great Pyramid project in benchmarked against other open pit projects. It's got the grade. We just got to get the size up, and we'll know if we're in that range here in early in the new year. And very confident that we'll be right in that basket. And why, if you're looking for a direct comparison, the project that you see there, Taronga, it was in New South Wales in Australia. About 2 years ago, it sold for just under $40 million. And it was 30,000 tons at about 0.17% tin. So that's, $40 million it may not seem like a lot, but when you're sitting at a $6 million market cap right now, that's quite a bit of leverage. And I believe we'll get a re-rating once we update our resource and get into that range. So takeaways today, we've got a metal that is a critical metal that is increasing in demand, and supply is lacking. There's a structural deficit in the market. Certainly, there's a need and a want for critical metals coming from tier one in good jurisdictions. And then the tin price itself, it's been hammered by outside forces there, and it's just now making a comeback. I think we're going to see all-time highs again here in the very short term, up 40% in the last 5 weeks. We've got a team that is experienced and have taken projects like this and grown into the company. And the time, I think it's right. I mean, the market's been beat up, our share price has been beat up, and the tin price has been down. But I think with good news flow as we continue to execute on our plan and a rebound in the tin price, it could be a very good opportunity. And again, we're backed by the Inventa Capital Group, and we have access to cash. We have a lot of technical expertise within the group, and I really believe we'll be able to advance these forward and have a good 2023. So, with that, that's the end of my presentation. Happy to talk about the tin market, and if you want to follow up. You can reach me directly, Chris at TinOne.ca. We're also post fairly often on Twitter. Our handle is at TinOne. Or you can email me directly, Chris at TinOne.ca. I have a number of reports and so on. I'm happy to discuss with you. So I'm looking at a couple of the question here. Do I have an estimated all-in sustaining costs? I don't. We're not at that point yet. We'll update our resource first, and then make the decision to move to some kind of scoping studies. What are the drivers in 2023 for an increase in tin price? Well, as mentioned before, maybe I'll go back on the slides here if I can. There we go. Yeah, I mean, there's a structural deficit. So there's about a 50,000 ton need for tin per year. You saw almost a perfect graph over the last couple of years as that was playing out. Demand is increasing, and there wasn't the supply. Really, the price of tin is because it's a small market, is fairly volatile. It gets affected by political changes, and what we saw is what happened in China. They went from net importers to net exporters because their factories, because of COVID, were not operating at full capacity, and that really crushed the market here. So we're seeing the rebound right now. I think we'll continue on this trend. The world needs more tin. Demand is increasing, and so I'm very positive on the outlooks. There was a very good article yesterday out of Reuters talking about where is this tin coming. The price over the last number of years has been at a point where there hasn't been a lot of incentive to bring on new projects. You kind of need about $25,000 per ton tin to incent companies to come on. So the outlook both in the short and long term are very positive. What is the ownership? What is the ownership of TinOne? So, right now it's mostly retail. Insiders and advisors own a very large chunk of it. We haven't raised a ton of money over the year, and mostly we've seeded that in house. Our goal going forward is to get ourselves up to a size where we can start bringing in some institutional buying, some larger chunks, maybe attract some of these battery metal funds as well, or perhaps even a strategic. And last question I see here is, are your Tasmania projects all brownfield? We have a mix. So, the Rattler Range project that we have is earlier stage. We've only done soil sampling and so forth on that. and the Aberfoyle project is a past producing district, so it's got all the infrastructure there. The mill is no longer there, but roads and power and all that are on the project. And then Great Pyramid, of course, has a historical resource on it, which underpins it, and we're just hoping to grow on that. So. Okay, well, thanks, guys. I don't see any more questions. I'm happy to stick around after. As mentioned, you can reach out to me, chris@tinone.ca, and I'm happy to have a discussion with you. We can arrange a call. There's an option to book meetings as well. And so with that, enjoy your day, and thank you for tuning in. Take care.